Hi there YouTube, I'm Danny and this will be my Rubik's Cube tutorial for beginners. So before I start telling you how to actually solve the cube, what I'm going to do is walk you through a little bit of the cube's architecture so you know your bearings all the time. So it's a cube, so there's 6 faces, 6 colors, and there's 3 different kinds of pieces. The 3 different kinds of pieces are the center pieces, which are the ones that if you go to any face are in the very middle, like this piece here or this piece here. Then there are edge pieces, which are the ones that are on the edge but in the middle of the edge, so like this one or this one or this one. And then there are corners, and the corners are on the corners. There are 6 centers, 1 for each face, and each of the centers have 1 sticker on them. There are 12 edges like this. Each of the edges have 2 stickers on them. And then there are 8 corners, and each corner has 3 stickers on them. It's important to note that for the pieces with multiple stickers, those stickers can never be separated from each other. For example, this corner piece right here has 3 stickers on it. Those 3 colors are blue, white, and orange. If I scramble this up, that piece will always have blue, white, and orange. Those stickers can never be separated. So wherever this corner goes eventually, it's going to have blue up here, white over here, and orange over here to be solved. So let's see what I could do. There we go. Okay, so now on to the basic strategy for solving a Rubik's Cube. There are 3 layers. Those layers look like this: 1, 2, and 3. A lot of people, when they first pick up a Rubik's Cube, their first instinct is to solve it face by face. For example, ignore everything and just solve the white color, and then move on to the blue color. But that's not how you can solve it, because, as I said before, there are pieces with multiple colors on one piece, right? So if I just solve the white side, right, if you notice, everything around right here is attached to the white side, right? These 3 blues, when I solve the white side, if these 3 blues aren't in order, all blue, then I haven't done the white side correctly at all, even if this is all white. So we have to solve it layer by layer to ensure that when we solve one color, the rest of the cube will follow. Alright, so I'm going to scramble this up, and we'll get to solving the very first layer. Okay, so when you solve a layer, you just have to pick a color, pick your favorite color. Let's start with yellow. One thing I want to mention right away is that the color scheme is, of course, the same every time. The solved state always looks exactly the same. And so, just to know your way around the cube, the colors that are on opposite sides of the cube always are the same. The centers never move in relation to each other, and the centers will tell you what color will eventually be on that face. So this face has a yellow center. That means this side right here will eventually be yellow when we solve it. So the 3 different opposite pairs are yellow and white. If I flip the cube over at 180 degrees, there will be white on the opposite center, like that, right? So yellow and white, and then blue and green, blue here, and then on the other side is green, and then red and orange. So there's orange, and on the opposite side is red, right? And so that tells you the opposites. And if you put red on the top and white on the right side, it will be blue in the front and not green. So that characterizes the entire cube. So let's pick a color. I think I said orange before, right? So let's start with orange. So the very first step in solving the first layer, which is this right here, everything that's turned 45 degrees to the rest of the cube is the orange layer. And so everything here will eventually need to be orange. And then each of these 3 will be the same color. These 3 will be the same color, and so on. So the first step is to solve the orange cross. And what that means is, if you look at the orange face straight on, this will be orange. So we're going to solve the 4 orange edge pieces. We're going to put them touching the orange center. And it's important to note that when you get an orange edge piece in place, it has to match. So let's say this is orange. This side is attached to this orange, right? This piece right here, this sticker, is attached to this sticker right here. And so this will have to match up with the centerpiece on the side. So let's do one of them. So there are a few different places that an orange edge piece can be. So we're looking for an orange on an edge, not on a corner and not in the center. So here's one. This is on an edge because it's between two corners. So and it's orange. And so you should always hold the layer you're working with on the top if you can when it's the first layer, and that'll help you keep your bearings. So when an orange edge piece is on the bottom layer but not on the bottom face, so you can see it's on the side here. The way to get it up into the top layer is, well, the easiest way is to just put this sticker up here. And so how can we do that? Well, we just do this, right? And now it's on the top. But the problem with that is we moved the orange center in the process. You'll notice the orange center isn't up here anymore, right? It was back there. So here's what we can do. Here's a fundamental strategy for solving the Rubik's Cube, is we're going to put the orange center somewhere safe and untouched while we move this up there, and then we're going to bring the orange center back. So let's take the orange center and put it somewhere safe on this side. So let's do that. So now the orange center is on this side. Then we're going to take the orange piece that we wanted before and put it up top. And then we can take the orange center that didn't move because of that move, and we can safely put it back. And there you go. Now the orange edge piece is attached to the orange center. And this piece right here, this yellow sticker, like I mentioned before, is attached to this orange sticker, which means this is going to eventually need to be on the yellow side. So all we have to do is spin the cube around, spin the top layer around until we get a match and we have a yellow center, right? So solving the top layer doesn't just mean getting all orange. It means solving the top layer with respect to the rest of the cube as well. So let's find another orange edge piece. There's 3 more to go. Here's the one we've solved. There's 1, 2, 3 left. Okay, here's one. It's again in the bottom layer, but this time instead of being on the side, it's on the bottom face, the orange sticker, right? So this is a little bit different. The way you can get the orange sticker that's on a bottom face onto the top face is just spin it around, right? So now it's up here. So here's the problem though, is that this is orange and it matches, but this doesn't match, right? And because we already had the other orange piece matching with the yellow, we can't just spin this around until it matches with blue, because then that'll make the yellow one not match anymore. So let's put this back down from where we started. So now we've got this orange piece. It needs to go up top, and we need to put it up top in the correct spot so that the yellow one that we solved before stays matched up with its yellow center face. So what we're going to do is we're going to spin this around to the blue side first. Right, so now this orange is here and the blue matches up. And then when we turn it up to the top like we did before, the orange is there, but it also matches with blue, and we haven't disturbed the yellow that we did before. So now you'll see we have 2 oranges solved, 2 orange edges, and the sides of those orange edges also match up with their respective centers. So now there's 2 more orange pieces to solve. Let's do... Okay, so here's a case where the orange edge piece that we want is not in the bottom layer at all. It's right here. Let's work with this orange-green piece right here. It's kind of on the side. It's in the second layer, right? It's in this layer right here. And when it's in the second layer, the best thing to do is to just put it into the bottom layer, so you can work with one of the 2 cases I just mentioned earlier. So there's 2 ways to put this piece into the bottom layer. You can either go like this, and then it's in the bottom layer, or you can go like this, and then it's in the bottom layer. I don't want to do this move that I just did though, because you'll notice that it ruined this piece, which we have already solved, the orange-yellow. So I'm going to do this way. And now this orange piece is in the correct spot. So this is the case where the orange sticker is on the side of the cube, not on the bottom of the cube. And so the way to do that is to hide the pieces that are going to get ruined first, right? So if I go like this and just put it up the right way, I I've ruined these two pieces because they're already solved. So I need to take those two, put them on the side of the cube, put this one up, and then put the other ones back, right? And then these two will be safe with this move, right? So I'm going to redo that, just so in case you guys didn't catch it. Also, it's important, I forgot to mention, that this is orange-green, right? And so you should spin it around to the green side before you attempt to put it up to the top layer so that it eventually matches. Same thing we did just earlier with the blue one. So we were below the green center so that when we put it up, it'll be in the right spot, right? With orange, matched with orange and green. So we're going to take these two pieces because they're the ones that are going to get ruined if we put this up right now, right? If you see, we go like this and those two got ruined. So we'll take those two, hide them on the side of the cube over here while we put this up in the correct spot, and then we can bring the other two back because they didn't get ruined by that. Cool, so now we have three oranges, and if you'll notice the edge of the side, they don't match anymore, right? But that's just because we spun things around in the process. So if we go like this, now all three of them match. Alright, and there's one more. And here it is. Here's an orange-white piece, and it's in the second layer, right? So let's just bring it down to the bottom layer so we can work with one of the two cases I mentioned earlier. And there's two ways to do that. This way, and it's in the bottom, or this way, and it's in the bottom. But I don't want to do this way because I screw with this orange-green, which is already solved. So I'm going to do this way again. And now we have the same case as we just did. It's orange and white, and it's on the side, not on the bottom, the orange sticker, rather. And so the way to do that is to put it up, but these two stickers get ruined, so we're going to hide them off to the side so they're safe while we put this orange up here and then bring the other stickers back. And now you can see that we've solved the orange cross. But again, we've spun some things around by putting this piece up here so they don't match on the sides anymore. So we just need to spin it until they do. And then it's perfect. So we have 4 orange edge pieces in a cross shape with the center. And all 4 of them match with the side centers. So the next step in solving the first layer is just to solve 4 corners, because those are the only pieces left. So now you might say, hey, look, we've already got 1 orange corner here, so there's only 3 to go. But you'd be wrong in saying that, because let's look at the other 2 stickers that are attached to this orange sticker on the same piece of plastic here. It's yellow and blue, right? But we can see from the center pieces on the sides that they're on, green and yellow, that this side will be green and this side will be yellow. So this orange piece, even though it matches with the orange side, is in the wrong position of these 4 positions because it doesn't match on the sides with the adjacent centers. So we're going to ignore this one for now and we'll fix it later. The easiest ones to work with will be the ones that are already in the bottom layer. So for example, this one is an orange sticker on a corner and it's in the bottom layer. So let's look at what are the other colors on it. Are blue and white, as we learned earlier. So it's on the side, it's on this side, so it needs to go up this way, right, with this rotation. So we go like this. But again, these 2 pieces get screwed up in doing that. So we're going to hide them, put this one up where we need it to be, and we're going to fix the other 2. Okay? And so there we got it. Orange matches with orange, white matches with white, and green matches with green. So there's one more orange piece that we need to solve. So let's find it. There it is. Orange, blue, and yellow. So the orange is on the side of the face, right? So it needs to go up this way. So we're going to go like this. But you can see that these 2 orange pieces get ruined. So we're going to take those 2, hide them somewhere safe, put this one up where we need to be, and then bring the other 2 back. And there you go. There's the entire first layer. If you'll notice, the entire orange is solved, right? And these 3 blues match with the blue on their center. These 3 yellows match with the yellow on their center. And the same with the greens, and the same with the whites. So not only have we solved the orange color, but we've solved the entire orange layer, right? And so the rest of the cube will follow. So the next step is to solve the middle layer. And the middle layer is this one. And if you'll notice, the middle layer includes the 4 centerpieces that we were concerned with when we were solving the top layer. So it includes this white, this blue, this yellow, and this green. And the centerpieces are kind of always solved with respect to each other, so we don't need to worry about those. The only ones we need to worry about are these edge pieces, right? This one, and this one, and this one, and this one. And here we go. Sometimes you get lucky, right? Sometimes you get a piece that already matches and you can ignore it. Excuse me. So this piece is green-white, and it already matches with the white center and the green center. So that's awesome. We don't need to worry about it. So there's only 3 left to go. This one, and the one in back over here. So we want all 4 of the edge pieces to look exactly like this one does now. So we have 3 remaining. And so the way to go is to look for any edge pieces that need to go in the second layer that aren't in the second layer. And since we've already solved the first, the only place they can be is on the bottom layer. So let's look around. The easy way to find them is to look for any edge pieces, 1, 2, 3, or 4, in the bottom layer that don't have the bottom layer color on them. So that's red, right? Because if they have the bottom layer color on them, then they're going to need to go in the bottom layer somewhere. If they don't have the bottom layer color on them, then they need to go somewhere that's not in the bottom layer. And since they can't go in the top layer, because we've already solved it, the only place left they can go is the middle layer. So here's one that's in the bottom layer, but doesn't have red on it, so it must go somewhere in the middle layer. Right? It's blue-white. Let's find out where it needs to go. That looks about right. So blue-white needs to go here because there's blue, here's white, so here's the spot that it needs to go. So the way to put it there is first look at the color that's on the face that's not the bottom, the side face, right? And match it with the correct centerpiece, right? So now we have this kind of T shape. And you're just going to do this move. So here's where it needs to go, here's where it is now, and you're going to do this move. You need to turn it in the bottom layer away from where it needs to go, right? So it needs to go here, so we're going to turn it away. And then it's over here, so turn it down. Sorry, let me start over. That was not correct. So we turn it away from where it needs to go, and take the spot it needs to go and turn it down. Turn the bottom layer away again. Put the spot where it needed to go back up. Reverse the bottom layer once in the opposite direction. And then you'll notice that you have a first layer corner piece that got ruined. If you solve that first layer corner piece exactly the same way as we solved them earlier, then magically, because of the setup moves we just did, the second layer edge piece that we wanted will follow. So this orange needs to go up here, so we can go like this. But these 2 pieces will get ruined by that, so we're going to hide them. And we'll put this piece up here, and we'll put these 2 back. And if you notice, the way we did it, the blue-white snapped into place. Let's do another. So we're looking in the bottom for pieces that don't have red in them. That might have been confusing to follow, but we're going to do it twice more, so it'll eventually make sense. So here's one. Here's a piece, green-yellow. It doesn't have red in it, which means it must go in the bottom, in the second layer. So we're going to spin it around to match with the side of the front face sticker. So it's green, so we're going to spin it around to the green side. So we've got this T shape, right? And so this time, green-yellow, it needs to go up on this side, it needs to go this way, right? So same as before, it needs to go kind of up to the left. So we're going to spin it away from where it needs to go, away, and then down with the side that it needs to go on, away again, and then back up with the side it needs to go on, and then back the other direction with the bottom layer. And then we have a bottom layer, a top layer corner that needs to be solved again. So here's orange, right? It needs to go up here. If we put it up there, these 2 are going to get ruined. So put those 2 away somewhere safe. We put this up where it needs to be, and we bring the other 2 back. Cool, and there it is. There's green, orange, exactly where it needs to be. Let's see now. Alright, so the last piece needs to be blue-yellow, right? Because here's yellow and here's blue. If you'll notice, this piece is already in the second layer, and it's right here. It's in the right spot even, but it's flipped over, right? And that needs to be reversed. If you find a second layer piece already in the second layer, but in the wrong place, or even in the correct place, but just flipped over, we need to do something to get it down into the bottom layer so that we can put it up again the correct way. And so the way to do that is take any random piece that it's in the bottom layer, and using the move that we just learned to put pieces in the bottom into the second layer, you put it there, and then that'll force this one down somewhere into the bottom layer, and we can do the move again to put it back up the correct way. So let's take this piece. Let's imagine that this piece needs to go here, right? So we're going to put this piece here using the same move we just did. That'll force this down, and we can put it back up the right way. So this piece needs to go here, so we go away with the bottom layer, down on the side that it needs to go, away again, back up, and then back the other way on the bottom. And then we have the first layer corner that needs to go up, but these two need to be hidden first. And then we put this up, and then we hide those two and put those two back. So now a different piece is here, which means that the piece before must have been knocked down somewhere. It was blue-yellow, so let's find it. There we go, blue-yellow. So let's spin it around so that the sticker that's on the side face matches up. So yellow, right? Cool, so now yellow, we've got this T shape. And it needs to go up this way. So we're going to do the same move. Away, down, away again, back up, back the other way. First layer corner goes up this way, but you need to hide these two. So you hide those two first, you put this up, and then you put the other two back. And there you go. Now we have two whole layers that are solved. Now, if you notice from what we just did with the second layer, every single time we solved the second layer piece, it needed to go up to the left. That's not the case. That was kind of bad luck on this tutorial's part. A lot of times, or half the time really, they'll need to go up to the right instead. So I'm gonna contrive a case where that's true, so you can kind of see what happens there. So just bear with me for a second. Okay, so we've got this piece missing. It's white and blue. So let's find that piece, and it's over here, white, blue. Right, so you spin it around so it matches and make that T shape. And now you'll notice that it needs to go up to the right instead of up to the left. So the relative directions of what I said, away and down and away, right, those things are still true, but everything is just in the opposite direction because it needs to go the other direction, right? So it needs to go this way. So you turn it away from where it needs to go, which is now this way, away. Where it needs to go goes down. All right, we're working with this side now. You turn the bottom away again. The side that it needs to go goes back up. You turn it back, the bottom back the opposite direction, and then you've got a first layer corner that needs to go back up here, right? So we could go like this, but these two need to be hidden first. So we're going to do that. And then you put this up there where it needs to be, and you unhide the two pieces. So that's everything that can happen in the second layer. We've got sometimes they go up to the left, sometimes they go up to the right, and sometimes they're stuck in the middle layer in the wrong place, so you put a random piece up there to knock it down, and then you put it up the right way. So that's the entire first two layers. We're 2/3 done by way of number of pieces, but unfortunately we're only about half done in terms of time, because the third layer is a lot more difficult, because we have a lot more to lose while we're working on the third layer, because we have 2 layers solved already. So when we do the third layer, I like to turn the cube upside down so that we can more easily see that third layer. So now the third layer is on the top. It's this one, right? So the third layer color is red. There are 4 steps to solve the third layer, or at least in this beginner method. I chose this method because it doesn't require a lot of memorization, and it's more logic, and it helps people understand what they're doing. So the 4 steps are going to be as follows. The first 2 are going to involve the edge pieces, right, that cross shape, and the second 2 steps are going to involve the corner pieces, right, these 4. The first 2 steps are Well, the first step is getting all of the edge pieces to be oriented correctly, and that means all of them are going to be red side up, like this one is, but this one isn't, right? It would need to be flipped over. So the first step is orientation of the edges. The second step is permutation of those edges so that they're in the correct orientation already, but they're not in the correct spot. Like this one is in the correct orientation, it's red up, but it's not in the correct spot because green doesn't match white. So the second step would be permutation, which is moving them around so that they're all in the correct spots, like this one is right now, or like this one is right now, right? So step 1, orientation of edges. Step 2, permutation of edges. Step 3 is orientation of corners, so that all 4 corners are red facing up, right? Like this one is right now, but this one isn't right now. And then the fourth step, as you might guess, is permutation of corners, so that all 4 corners are not only oriented correctly, but they're in the correct spot. Like, for example, this one is oriented correctly, but it's not in the correct spot because blue doesn't match and white doesn't match. But if I were to go like this, it is in the correct spot because blue matches and white matches. Alright, so that's the layout for what we're about to learn in the third layer. So let's jump in. The first step, like I said, is orientation of the edges. So let me actually change what we've got right now to make this make a little more sense when I start teaching. Okay, so if you'll notice now, we've got the worst lucky case possible, and that is none of the 4 edges are oriented correctly. None of the 4 edges have red facing upwards, right? They're all the red stickers are on the side, right? So the move that I'm going to teach you for this step, what it does is it takes whatever edge is on the front face and whichever edge is on the back face and flips them over in place and does nothing else to the rest of the cube. So this one is going to get flipped over, and this one is going to get flipped over, right? So you can imagine if we do that to these two, right, and then turn and do it to these two, then all 4 of them will be red facing up, right? So I'm going to do that right now. The move is really easy to remember. You take whichever 2 you want on the front and on the back, and you put the middle layer up, right? And then you take the top layer and put it in either direction. Let's choose left, right? And you do whatever you just did up and to the left 4 total times, so 3 more. Up, left, 2 more, up, left, 1 more, up, and left. Alright, and you know you've done 4 when the red sticker in the center is back up top, right? Because you've done 4 full rotations. And then you do the very opposite 2 moves 4 times. So we just did up and to the left 4 times, so now we're going to go down and to the right 4 times. So down, right, 3 more, down, right, 2 more, down, right, 1 more, down, right. And that's it. So you'll notice nothing else on the rest of the cube changed. If you go back 45 seconds or whatever and look at every single other piece, they're all exactly the same, except for these 2. They flipped over. And that's awesome, right? That's exactly what we want to happen. So now all we need to do is just turn the cube in our hands and do the same thing to these 2, right? So we're going to go up to the left, up to the left, up to the left, up to the left. That was 4 times. Now we're going to do the opposite 2 moves 4 times. Down to the right, down to the right, down to the right, down to the right. Everything else did the same except those 2. Those 2 have flipped over, and now we have all 4 reds, right? Sometimes, when you start the third layer, you won't get so unlucky and have all 4 screwed up, right? Sometimes you will get this kind of look where 2 of them are already solved and 2 of them are not. And so you just need to do it once to these 2 pieces. Other times, though, hold on, you'll get something a little different, where you have 2 solved and 2 unsolved, but they're not across from each other like you want them to be, right? Like you can see the 2 unsolved pieces, the 2 that aren't right up, are kind of next to each other, right? And they're not across from each other. And so that's a problem, because the move that I just taught you only flips over 2 opposite pieces. So if you were to do it like right here, it would flip over this one, and that would be good, and it would be solved. But then it would unflip this one, and it would be unsolved, and so we'd have the same problem, and these 2 would be unsolved, right? So that's kind of weird. But what we can do is we can use a couple setup moves to force the algorithm that we just learned to work, right? So let's hold it like this, so that the two pieces that are read up make an L shape with the centerpiece, right? So an L. What we can do is, this one is on the front, but we want this one to be on the back. So let's put this one on the back while this one stays in the front, and then we'll use the move that we learned to flip over these two, and then we'll put this one back over here, and it should be okay, right? So we're going to use two setup moves, and then we're going to do the correct algorithm, and then we're going to de-set up those two setup moves. So let's take this one and we'll put it back here with this move. Now it's over here, and that move. So now it's over here. So now it's on the back, right? So the two pieces that we were interested in, this one and this one, are in the front, and after the two setup moves, like this and like this, on the back. So front and back, we're going to do the move to flip over these two, and then we're going to undo the two setup moves, like this and like this, to fix the cube. So let's do it. Set up, front and back. We're going to flip them over, up and to the left 4 times, down and to the right 4 times, and then we're going to undo the two setup moves. So we'll take this one, we undo it like this, and there you go. They're flipped over, right? It's kind of magical, but it's really logical. Take some time to understand that, and it will be really useful. Okay, so the next step, we've just oriented all 4 edges. The next step is to permute them so that they're all in the correct spot. Like, this one is in the correct spot right now. This one's in the correct spot right now, but this one isn't, and this one isn't. Okay, so the move that I'm about to teach you will take the 3 edge pieces that are on the front and the 2 sides, not the one on the back, and it will move them in kind of a loop, right? So it will take them and rotate them. So this one will come here, this one will come here, this one will go here, right? Or you can do the opposite loop, where this one goes here, this one goes here, and this one goes here, right? So in order to do that, the correct setup is to turn the top layer until one of the 4 pieces is in the correct spot, and one of them isn't. 3 of them aren't, rather. So you'll notice that I do this one is correct, and this one isn't, and this one isn't, and this one isn't. Now, setting it up that way isn't always possible just by spinning around the top layer. So if you haven't got it, just watch for another minute or 2, and I'll get to the case where that's not possible. Or you might be lucky and all 4 of them will be in place just by spinning the top layer around. Try that also. But if you can't get it so that it's 1 correct and 3 incorrect right now, just hold up and we will address that issue. So we've got 1 correct and 1, 2, 3 incorrect, right? They don't match. And so what you need to do is figure out what direction these 3 need to cycle so they are correct. This white one needs to go here, this blue one needs to go here, and this green one needs to go here. So they need to cycle around this way, right? So a clockwise circle. So we're going to label them 1, 2, and 3, and number 1 is the one of the 2 side ones that needs to come to the front. And this is all with respect to holding the correct one in back, by the way. The yellow one, the correct one, is in back. So we're looking at 1, 2, and 3. This is number 1 because it's the side one that needs to come to the front. White needs to come to the front. So 1, and then 2, and then 3. And so you take number 1. This spot right here on the right side where number 1 is going to be called the switch out spot. And we're going to use that location to swap out all the pairs that need to be swapped. 1 needs to go to 2, 2 needs to go to 3, 3 needs to go to 1. All those swaps are going to happen over here. So we're going to take number 1 and we need to swap it for 2. So the way to do that is take number 1, put it down towards you, take number 2 and move it into the switch out spot, like this. Take number 2 and move it into the switch out spot. And then here's 1, here's 2, we switch it out. Right, now 1 is where 2 was. Right, 2 is back here now, we just knocked it out. Alright, 2 needs to go where 3 is. So 3, which is here now because we rotated the top ones. 3, we're going to move into the switch out spot. And we're going to switch it out for 2. 2 is back here, so we switch. right? We knocked out 3 with that move. 3 needs to go where 1 is, or where 1 originally was. Where 1 originally was is now the spot that's no longer red, and it's always 2 rotations away at this point. So we're going to spin twice to get that spot into the switch out spot, and we're going to switch out number 3. Right? So there you go. Now all 4 edges are solved. Now I totally understand that that might have been very confusing for the first go. So watch that part a few times. I'm going to move on to the opposite rotation, where they need to rotate counterclockwise. And keep in mind that this move, this algorithm is the same every time, minus the possibility of needing to rotate opposite directions. So learn it and just get used to it, and your muscle memory will take care of it for you. You won't have to think about the switch out spot every single time. Let's do one more. Okay, so now this one is correct, right? But this one is not, this one is not, and this one is not. So we'll hold the correct one in back. And which of the 2 side ones needs to come to the front? That's how we label them 1, 2, or 3. This blue one needs to come to the front, so we're going to do 1, and then 2, and then 3. And so they need to cycle counterclockwise this time. So you take number 1, and same relative moves, you put it down towards you. So this side is the switch out spot now. Number 1 goes down towards you, it's right here. You take number 2, and you move it into the switch out spot. And you take number 1, and now that number 2 is in the switch out spot, you switch it out, 1 for 2, like this. Right? That knocked out 2 back here. 2 needs to go where 3 is. So you take 3, which is here now because we rotated once already, and you move it into the switch out spot. And 2 needs to go where 3 is, so you take 2 and you switch it out. That knocked 3 out, and 3 needs to go where 1 originally was, which is now, again, the spot that isn't red and is 2 rotations away. So you just go 1, 2 into the switch out spot, and you switch it out. 3 for where 1 was. And again, there you go. Solved, 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 and solved. Okay. If you weren't able to get it to a place where 1 is correct and 3 are incorrect, then your cube probably looks something like... Let's see if I can figure out how to get this to work. Sorry, my computer just made a sound. Okay, I think that should have done it. Yes. Okay, so the way you can tell is that if 2 of them are correct, this one and this one, then, and those 2 that are correct are opposite each other and not next to each other, then no matter how much you spin, you'll never be able to get it so that 1 is correct and 3 are incorrect. If you spin once, all 4 are incorrect, and if you spin again, then the 2 that were originally correct before are incorrect, but the other 2 are correct now, right? So it's the same problem. So if you have 2 that are correct and next to each other, you should be able to be fine and spin it once, and 1 is right and 3 are wrong. But if the 2 that are correct are opposite each other, like it is right now, then you're never going to get there. So what we need to do is we need to take the move that we just learned, apply it once in any rotation, clockwise or counterclockwise, and then we'll be at the situation where 1 is correct and 3 are incorrect. And then we can do the move once more, and everything will be okay. So pick any rotation of the cube, 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, any rotation. Now take these 3, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, either rotation, any direction, counterclockwise or clockwise, and imagine that we're cycling those 3 edges. So let's pick 1, 2, and 3, right? So we're going to do the same move we just did. So 1, 2, 3, take 1, bring it down towards you. We're going to take 2, move it into the switch out spot, and we're going to switch out 1 for 2. That knocked 2 out. 2 needs to go where 3 is. 3 is here, so move 3 into the switch out spot. We take 2, and we bring it, knock out 3. 3 needs to go where 1 originally was, which is now the empty spot, always 2 rotations away. 1, 2, and you put 3 where 1 originally was. Now, of course that didn't solve it. Like I said earlier, it only brought us to a scenario where we have 1 correct and 3 incorrect. So here's 1 that's correct, or 2 rather, but now the 2 that are correct are next to each other, so all we are is a rotation away, right? So if we go like this, then we have 1 correct, and 1, 2, 3 incorrect. Cool. So now we have the correct one in back, and we'll label them 1, 2, 3 depending on the direction of the cycle. Number 1 is the one that needs to go to the front, right? So blue needs to go here. So we have 1, 2, and 3. And you take this one, number 1, put it down towards you. 1 needs to go where 2 is. 2 is here, so you move 2 into the switch out spot. And you take 1 and you switch it out. 2 got knocked out back here. It needs to go where 3 is. 3 is here. We turn it once into the switch out spot and switch out for number 2. 3 got knocked out. It needs to go where 1 originally was. 1 is the one where the spot that's not red, or not the same color as the top face, and it's always 2 rotations away. So you go 1, 2, and you switch out. There we go. That's the entirety of step 2. Step 2 is probably the most complicated part. So if you're confused, just watch it a few times. Feel free to post a comment, ask questions. I will do my best to answer. But that's all possibilities of what can happen. Step 3, you might be happy to learn, is the easiest of the 4 of the third layer. Step 3 is orientation of the corners. Right? Orientation of the corners means turning all the corners so that they're all facing red up with the rest of the red face. Like this one isn't, but this one is. And so it's really easy. All you need to do is turn the cube in your hands so that one of the incorrect corners is on the front right position of the cube. Front and right. So here. And all you're going to do is repeat 4 moves over and over again until you see red here. Regardless of what the rest of the cube looks like, the rest of the cube is going to look screwed up, but that doesn't matter because once all 3 of them are solved, the rest of the cube will come back to being solved. And that's for reasons that I won't explain here because it's beyond the scope of the video. But just do these 4 moves over and over again until you see red, and then we're going to move on to the next one and do the same thing, and move on to the next one until we see this, and do the same thing. And at that point, once we get all 3, the rest of the cube will come back. So don't be afraid if it looks screwed up in the process. So we're going to take this one, and here are the 4 moves. You take it down, bring it to the left across the bottom, and you do the opposite 2 moves, up and to the right across the bottom. So you're always going to have to do those 4 moves either twice or 4 times, depending on where the red sticker was. If the red sticker was on this side, you're going to have to do it twice. If the red sticker was on this side, you're going to have to do it 4 times. If the red sticker was on the top, well then you shouldn't have been doing it in the first place because it already matched. So the red sticker was originally on this side, so we're going to have to do it once more. Down, left, up, and to the right. Make sure you finish all 4 of those moves, because on the third one, if you go back 10 seconds, you'll notice that the red was already here on the third one, but you must finish the to the right across the bottom before you move on to the next incorrect corner. Or else when you're done, if you notice the rest of the cube is kind of screwed up right now, but like I said, it'll come back. It won't come back if you don't finish all 4 moves. So down, left, up, and right. Make sure you do the right across the bottom. So then we're going to move to the next corner. And make sure you don't move to the next corner by rotating the cube. Just turn the top layer so the next corner is in the front right position to work with. So we're going to do the same 4 moves. If you'll notice, the red is on the right side, so we're going to have to do it twice. Down, left, up, right, down, left, up. The red is there, but like I said, don't forget to go right. So next corner is here. This one isn't red, so we turn this one in, and we're going to work with it here. And again, the red is on the right side, so we're going to have to do this twice. Down, left, up, right, down, left, up. It's there, but we still need to go right across the bottom. And there you go. You'll notice that all of them are solved, and the bottom 2 layers came back, right? Nothing screwed up. Cool. So now we only have 1 step remaining. So that's the whole third step right there. It's really easy. Just repeat those 4 moves until you see red, and then you move on to the next corner. Or not necessarily red, but just whatever the top color is, right? So in rotating the top so much throughout that third step, we kind of undid the 4 edges, right? It's not solved anymore. but they're still solved with respect to each other, so you just have to turn it until you match, and all four of them will match. And so you can see we're getting really close here, right? It's very close to being solved. The only stuff that's not solved is permutation of the third layer corners, and that is making the third layer corners move around until they're matching like this one is, but this one isn't, right? And so this is very similar to the second step of the third layer, orientation or permutation of the edges with the switch out spot and the cycles 1, 2, 3. So it's very similar. Very often, the most common scenario when you get to this step, well, sometimes if you're very lucky, when you get to this step, all four corners will be already complete and the cube will be solved, and so you're done, right? But some other times, or most other times, you will have one correct and 1, 2, 3 incorrect. That's the most common. There are two other possibilities, which I will explain afterwards. So if you don't have 1 correct and 3 incorrect, just stick with us and you'll learn it in a couple minutes. So this is really similar. We're going to look at the cube at 45-degree angle, holding the correct corner, which is this one, in the back here. So we can look at the 3 like a cycle, like we did in the second step. So again, just like in the second step, you pick the one on the side that needs to come to the front, and you label that number 1. So the front is white, green, right? White and green needs to go here, and that's this one, white, green. So that's number 1 then. And then so the front was number 2, and this one's number 3. So 1, 2, 3. So take number 1, turn the cube in your hand so that number 1 is in the front right position, like this. Make sure you keep track of what's 1, 2, and 3. In our case, it's 1, 2, 3. They need to cycle this way. So that's clockwise. So here we go. This is going to be the switch out spot, this area right here. So we're going to take this one, we're going to put it down, and store it in the bottom left, like this. So now it's stored, right? And let's fix these two first. Let's fix those two also. So what we just did was we take this one, we go down across the bottom, and then fix the 2 that we moved in the process. So now this corner was stored down here, right? So that's number 1. Here's 2 and 3. 1 needs to go where 2 was, so we put 2 into the switch out spot like this, right? So here's 2, and we're going to switch it out for number 1, which was down here. So we go down, we switch it out for number 1. All right, so now number 1 is there, and we bring it back up. That knocked out number 2. Number 2 is here. It needs to go where 3 was, which is here now, because we moved it once this way. So 3 moves into the switch out spot. It goes down, and it switches out for number 2. And we bring it back up. That knocked out number 3, which is over here. 3 needs to go where 1 originally was. And similarly to the second step, 1 is the spot that isn't red, and it's always 2 rotations away. So you go 1, 2 into the switch out spot. That spot goes down, and you switch out for number 3. Cool, and then that's it. You put it back up, and you're done, right? So let's do the opposite rotation, where here's 1 that's correct, and 1, 2, 3 that's incorrect. So you hold it like this at 45 degrees with the correct one in back, so you can see all 3 incorrect ones. The one that needs to come to the front is the one that you label number 1. So it needs to be white-green, and that's the one that's over here. So this is number 1 now. So we're going 1, 2, 3. It's a clockwise rotation now. So you hold number 1 so that it's in the front right position of the cube, like this. And so now we have 1, 2, 3, in contrast to what we had before, which is 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3 is what we've got right now. It's the same move. Just pay attention to what's 1, 2, and 3. This is still a switch out spot. So it starts the same way. We bring it down and we store it in the bottom left side of the cube, and we bring it back up. Now I want you to pay attention this time. Pay attention to the fact that in what direction we move the bottom layer every time we move the bottom layer during this algorithm. Just remember, just pay attention to that over the course of the next minute or so. So we're going down to the left across the bottom, and we'll fix these 2. Here's number 1. needs to go where number 2 is, so we take 2 and we move it into the switch out spot. 2 goes down, right? And we switch out for number 1 to the right across the bottom and put it back up. That knocked out number 2. Number 2 needs to go where 3 was, where 3 is. 3 is here. So we move it once into the switch out spot, and then we switch out by going down across the bottom to the left, right? And then we put it back up. And 3, that knocked out 3 over here. And 3 goes where 1 was, and 1 is always the spot that's not red, and it's always 2 rotations away. So 1, 2 into the switch out spot, and we switch out. So we get out down across the bottom to the right, and then we go up. So if you paid attention to all the words that I stressed, all the motions across the bottom, it was alternating, left, right, left, right. That's important for the cases where you don't have 1 right and 3 wrong, and you have all 4 of them wrong. And so I'm going to explain that now. Just doing some setup moves here. 1 second. Okay. So sometimes you'll get to the 3rd layer, and you will have a spot part where all 4 of the corners don't match. Right? So if you'll notice during that whole switch out process, the first 2 layers were getting all screwy, right? The part of the algorithm that makes sure they come back is the fact that we alternate directions across the bottom every time. So that's important to what I'm about to explain. So when you have all 4 of them screwed up, it will never be true that all 4 of them need to go in a cycle. It won't never be like 1 needs to go where 2, 2 needs to go to 3, 3 needs to go to 4, and 4 back to 1. It will never be like that. It will always be that there will be 2 distinct pairs of pieces that need to just switch. So for example, these 2 will need to switch right now, right? Yellow and green and white, they just need to switch positions. And then the other 2 just needs to switch positions. So 2 totally distinct pairs of pieces that need to switch, right? Not a gigantic 4 cycle. So here's how we're going to solve it. It's going to be the same exact concept, but just make sure you pay attention to alternating on the bottom, and you'll see why in a second. Right, so we're going to take this one, needs to go here, and this one needs to go back here. Right, so just pay attention to that. So here's 1, here's 2, and 2 needs to go back to 1. 1 to 2, 2 to 1. Number 1, here's the switch out spot. We go down, same beginning. We store it to the bottom left, to the left, right, left, and we go up again. Fix these 2. We take number 2, and we move it into the switch out spot, and we need to switch out for number 1. So here's number 1. We go down to the switch out, and we go across the bottom to the right, right, just like before, and we bring these 2 back up. That knocked out number 2. Now there's no 3. 2 needs to go right back where 1 was, which 1 is always the spot that's not red, and so we bring it back. Right, and 2 needs to go where 1 was, so we go down to the left, so we put it in the right spot, right, and we go up. Cool. So now you'll see that these 2 corners are solved, right, but the first 2 layers are not, right, and that's the problem here. If you remember, we just went to the left across the bottom. Right, so what you need to do now, these 2 pieces still need to switch. When we switch them, the rest of the first 2 layers will come back, but only if you maintain the alternating left-right on the bottom throughout between the 2 distinct pairs. So we're going to spin the top layer around twice to look at the next pair of pieces that needs to switch. Right, these 2 corners need to switch. So we're going to start this by the same way as we did before, by storing this piece in the bottom. But instead of storing to the left, because the last move we did was to the left, we have to store to the right this time. And that was the point the whole time of paying attention to the alternating. Because the last pair ended with left, we have to start this pair with to the right, or else the first 2 layers won't come back. Right, so we store this one on the bottom right. That's number 1. It needs to go to number 2. Right, so 2, move into the switch out spot, and we go down to switch out, and we switch out to the left, right, alternate. And we put this back up. 2 is now here. It needs to go where 1 originally was, which is the spot that's not red. So we bring it back to the switch out spot, and we bring it down, and we switch out to the right. And we put it back up. And there you go. That's it. You just need to spin twice, and you're done. Now there's one very last possibility, and that is if you have all four corners are incorrect, right? This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is wrong. But you might notice it looks kind of patterny, right? It looks better than the other one. That's because these two kind of match with each other, and these two match with each other, these two match with each other, and these two match with each other, right? It's different than the two cases we had before. All four of them are wrong, but instead of the two distinct pairs being like here and here, this time it's diagonals. These two need to switch with each other, and these two need to switch with each other, right? And that's the difference. And when you do it like this, you can do the same type of move as we did before, where we go 1, 2, and then 2 back to 1, and then the same thing with the other pair, like little 2 cycles. Or you can do a shortcut, and I'm going to show you the shortcut. If you want a little bit of a brain exercise, see if you can apply what we did before with the cycle method to this pair and this pair, right? I'm not going to show you that though. I'm going to show you the shortcut. So if you have this, where you have the edges matching, but the corners don't, but they kind of match with each other, then spin the top twice in any direction. 1, 2, right? So now what we've done is, instead of the edges being correct and the corners being wrong, we've switched it. The corners are now correct and the edges are wrong, right? So the corners are all correct, but the edges are the ones that are wrong. And that makes this a lot easier, and you'll see why. So we're going to take, so if you'll notice, this edge is blue, needs to switch with its opposite, green, and green needs to go back to blue. And this edge, yellow, needs to switch with its opposite, white, and white back to yellow. So there's two pairs of edges that need to swap with each other distinctly. So what we're going to do is, we're going to take this pair and bring it to the bottom of the cube, right? So now this pair is down here, and what we're going to do is just turn it around. That's it. Just turn it around twice, right? Swap them by moving it twice, and then bring them back up. So now they match, right? The bottom is kind of screwed up, right? But that's okay, because once we solve the next pair, the bottom will be fine. So turn to the next pair, so that they're on the front and the back. Bring them down to the bottom, and just swap them around. Just swap them 180 twice, right? Move twice. 1, 2, and then bring them back to the top. And that's it. You're done, right? You just turn the top once, and that's it. Okay, guys, that is how you solve a Rubik's Cube with the beginner method. You should be able to, with a lot of practice, get this method to average out between 50 seconds and a minute. There are, of course, a lot better methods to solve the Rubik's Cube. The world record right now is about 5.5 seconds, which is insane. I personally average around 25 seconds with methods that are not quite as good as the methods that the best guys use. So if you're interested in learning more, there's a lot of information out there on the internet, but this, I think, is a really good beginner method because it doesn't involve a whole lot of memorization, and it's easy to follow because the memorization that you do need has some logic behind it. That's it. If you have any questions, feel free to comment on this video, send me a PM on YouTube, anything you want. Alright, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching.